You know, Adam, I was thinking we should do another Star Wars episode.
Seriously, I mean, it's a fictional universe. I'm just not sure how much material there is to test.
I find your lack of faith upsetting. I mean, disturbing.
Okay, well, are you gonna be in here all day? Because we could get started doing some other stuff.
Nah, you go ahead. I like it in here. It's private. Nice bucket.
Thank you. Dude, we've got an entirely new episode of Myths just from Star Wars again.
That's that movie where they have those sword things that light up or something, right?
Lightsabers. They're called lightsabers. And yes, that is the movie. And we have a whole myth about lightsabers in this episode.
Do we get to make one?
No, we're not. We're gonna test whether being on higher ground gives you a tactical advantage with a lightsaber.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, we are testing a myth about these laser blasters.
And those are...
Well, these are the weapons of the stormtroopers in the films.
Stop that ship! Blast them!
And no matter how often they shoot at the good guys always seem to be able to dodge out of the way of them.
So it sounds to me like I'm gonna have to use the Force.
Well, yes, but please, this time only for good.
If I must.
It's a well-known Star Wars trope. Somehow the heroes always manage to dodge the bullet. But is it actually possible to dive out of the way in time? To find out, Adam and Jamie are going to simulate their own blaster battle and try it out for themselves. And while Jamie begins building the gun, Adam investigates the velocity of the ammunition in question.
Let's talk laser blasters. Oh, wait, it's Star Wars. Let's talk laser blasters. See, everyone in the Star Wars universe shoots at each other with things we collectively refer to as laser blasters, even though the characters only call them blasters. But we think of them as lasers. The question is, are they? Well, let's find out. I've got here a handheld laser pointer, shoots a green laser. Let's figure out how fast this thing goes. 3, 2, 1, there we go. All right. Yep, 186,000 miles per second. I'm kidding. I'm not measuring light with this. It's actually a force gauge. Get it? Force gauge. The fact is, we all know how fast light moves. So I'm going to venture to say that the bolts from the blasters on Star Wars move a lot slower than the speed of light. How much slower? I'm going to find out by watching Star Wars, measuring them with calipers and using some math to figure out how fast they might move in the real world. That hallway is 88 inches wide. Once I get enough measurements, I'm going to average them out, and it should give me a consistent laser blast speed.
By extrapolating from a visual reference,
Harrison is 6 feet tall.
And timing how long it takes the blaster bolt to cover a known distance, Adam can calculate its velocity. And before you can say laborious arithmetic,
7 frames.
Adam has calculated an average from across all 6 movies.
I've got a speed of between 130 and 135 miles per hour at a distance of about 40 feet. So that's what Jamie's gun will replicate. 130 miles an hour at 40 feet.
We're going to be replicating the performance of the blasters we see in the movie, and to do that, we're going to be using this pneumatic launcher by plumbing compressed air into the back of it. Every time you pull on the trigger down here, it fires a round, and then these pistons push forward and advance another round into position, ready to fire.
Ow!
That's what I'm talking about. Now, we can put anything that we want inside these tubes. So I'm going to be experimenting to find out what we can fit in there that accurately replicates the performance of what we see in the movie and hopefully doesn't hurt us at the same time.
In theory, by altering the air pressure powering his gun,
It looks like that's about 350 PSI.
Jamie will be able to match the movie specs with his non-lethal ammo.
Firing in 3, 2, 1.
But in practice, there's a speed problem,
This only said it was 26 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Right?
measuring problem,
Didn't quite get a reading.
1.
and accuracy problem.
And they're going off to the side.
Here we have all the problems.
Our first laser blasts don't fly straight, and we can't get a reading on how fast they're going, so there's still some problem solving to do. We may end up going with a totally different solution. We don't know at this point.
So while the team locates the drawing board, Darth Heineman and Jedi Savage go head-to-head in a lightsaber duel to tackle the myth of higher ground.
So tell me about this higher ground thing.
Well, it takes place at the end of the third Star Wars movie. Obi-Wan and Anakin are having an epic battle with lightsabers. And at the battle's climax, Obi-Wan is standing on a hill slightly above Anakin, and he says to him,
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
Well, from a military perspective, it makes sense, but as far as one-on-one, I'm not so sure. What happens in the movie?
right after he says that, Obi-Wan proceeds to chop off a bunch of Anakin's limbs.
So the myth is that if you have higher ground, it's guaranteed you'll win.
Exactly. Ready to do some sword fighting?
Sure.
Anakin versus Obi-Wan, a pivotal moment in the Star Wars canon. An epic battle that results in the birth of Darth Vader. But is topography really the deciding factor?
Now, Jamie and I are going to be battling with swords, but it begs the question, how do you determine who wins? Well, we think with lightsabers, it's pretty straightforward. First touch wins, really, because anything you touch with a lightsaber, you're pretty much taken home as a keepsake. And I believe I have an idea for determining definitively who wins each of our sword battles.
To test the dueling advantage of higher ground,
Fascinating.
Adam's connecting the dots on a complicated conductive plan.
Mindbender.
Once revealed, it will clearly show who wins each battle,
Ding.
thanks to bright lights lit up by a lightsaber
Blue and yellow it is.
and clever clothing that can carry a current.
This, believe it or not, is actually metal. It moves like fabric. It is an incredibly fine copper mesh. It's super conductive, and that's why I'm using it. I'm gonna make some clothing out of this stuff. Nice, one-size-fits-all conductive pants.
These are looking cool. It's amazing how supple this stuff is.
It's just beautiful.
We're gonna have to see if it's a Faraday cage.
Well, I figure my cell phone's gonna stop working the moment I put it on, right?
With the copper conductive clothing complete,
Oh, yeah.
it's time for the
Lightsabers.
What about them?
Well, there's probably some people wondering about now whether we're gonna spend part of this episode making our own real lightsabers.
Well, I've got news for them. We're not,
No.
for a whole host of reasons.
Yes, not least of which, photons. Light is made up of photons, but photons move in a single direction. You can't program one to stop 3 feet from its source. And even if you gather a bunch in a small place, like we do with lasers, the beams of a lightsaber would likely pass right through each other.
Well, and then there's the power required, because while there are lasers that cut through stone and metal, they require a massive power input. You'd have to have something like a small nuclear reactor attached to it.
meaning
But what if you could harness a non-laser technology like this cutting torch to make a lightsaber?
Well, you've still got your portability problems. You've got an awful lot of heat to deal with, and you still don't have something that behaves exactly like a lightsaber.
You're right.
Oddly enough, you'd be better off trying to build your own Death Star than a lightsaber.
We should try that.
to test this age-old military adage,
I'm making a lightsaber.
Adam's faking them.
So a lightsaber is massless, right? The blade has no mass, it's just light.
Yeah, look at that.
Ah, muy auténtico. So we need our blade to be incredibly light, which is good because we want to be able to smack on each other without hurting each other. And the blade in this case will be played by a beautiful, super light, crazy light carbon fiber tube. Oh, that's cool. It feels like there's almost nothing there.
The final stage is a layer of foam pipe insulation, over which goes a sheath of conductive copper mesh.
This is reminding me of something. Time to put the padding on the saber. Oh, good, good, good. That's exactly what I wanted.
Adam's finally ready to reveal his plan.
There's your Jedi weapon. What I've got here is some conductive suits with conductive swords, so that as Jamie and I sword fight, it's not bad. Give me a whack. Okay, not on the face. We can determine precisely who gets hit first, and that is when my sword touches Jamie, his belt lights up. Hey, look at that, it totally worked. When he touches me, my belt lights up. Hey, there we go. And we should be able to view exactly who wins. Time for Jamie and I to sword fight.
And the fighting is going to start here, but I think maybe it ought to be a little more sci-fi.
Jamie and I are going to begin with a control, that is fighting each other on flat ground.
Looks good to me.
We're gonna put a pair of X's on this platform where we start. And when a bell sounds, can you give me a bell sounds, editors? No. No. That's it. When we hear the bell, we start fighting. Whoever touches first wins, and you know because the other guy's lit up. Reset, go back to 0, and try again. Oh, it's like putting on a straitjacket. There we go. Dude, this is hot.
In a best of 25 bouts on an even surface, our copper-clad Jedi will establish a comparative control.
You look great.
Then they'll repeat the test on higher ground and compare the difference in scores.
We're battling with lightsabers.
We've ended up working with quite a variety of weapons on this show, and with things like guns and knives, we've even become somewhat proficient. But when it comes to things like swords, not so much. Adam and I are pretty much a blank slate.
With the rig ready,
When I touch you, you light up.
Nice.
our tabula rasas are ready to roll.
Excellent. I think we're ready to do some sword fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, count us into a ding.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
To test the combat cliche that height equals might,
Ding.
Adams concocted a set of copper suits and non-lethal lightsabers to do battle with.
Okay, not on the face.
And first up, a flat ground best of 25 control.
That's one.
After they establish their relative abilities on the scoreboard,
I think you got me on that one. This is kind of fun. Just repairing my lightsaber blade. Great. It's a little known thing Jedi sometimes have to do. Your blade can get bruised. That's what it's called, a light bruise. Not a light bruise, but a light bruise.
they'll adjust the height of the playing field
Ha! Got your knee.
and find out if higher ground
right.
really is the ultimate advantage in a deadly duel.
This is genuinely entertaining.
Adam, did I ever tell you I was on the fencing club in college? What, 34 years ago? And it was only because there was a hot chick that I was dating and she wanted to do it, so I was doing it with her.
That's a reason I learned a lot of things in my life. It's true.
On guard.
All right.
Yep, with no prospective mates to impress. Technique, strategy, and composure are conspicuous by their absence.
Right in the heart.
Our neophyte fighters are simply frantically flailing their way through each bout.
Actually trying to come up with a strategy for blocking a hit and then going in and making a hit is incredibly difficult.
Gotcha.
There's a lot going on, including a guy with a blade trying to kill you while you're trying to think.
If there's one thing we've learned from our experience with working with weapons on this show, it's that it's not like it is in the movies where you can hack away with a sword or unload a machine gun and nobody gets hurt. The reality is that people get hurt instantly. All we have to do is a few spars and then we've got a hit. And in the case of something like a lightsaber, just a light touch can mean that you've been cut completely in half. So it's a serious thing.
As the match comes to its increasingly desperate
I'm going right for the direct approach.
and competitive conclusion,
Oh, really? Really? That's how it is.
the score indicates that with no topographical advantage, this was the perfect baseline.
Jamie and I have completed 25 trials on even ground. That's a good shin hit right there. And experimentally, the results are kind of awesome. We are totally evenly matched. I had 13 wins to Jamie's 12. That means it's time now to go to higher ground. We're gonna do another 25 trials. It's heads. I'm higher ground.
Okay. Now that one of us is going to be fighting from higher ground, there we go. I would note that in the movie, Obi-Wan tells Anakin that,
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
now that means that when Adam and I start to fight, we're not talking about like one winning by a few points or the other.
That seems great.
If this idea is true, the person on higher ground has to totally dominate that battle.
I gotcha. This is very interesting. When we were on level ground, Jamie and I were very toe-to-toe in terms of attack and defense.
It's over, Jamie. I've got the higher ground.
But now that I'm on the higher ground, I'm definitely noticing Jamie is much more on the defensive, and I am able to take the lead in attack.
I got you, Slee.
I'm not sure if this is shifting the balance in my favor because it's still early, but it definitely feels like I am much more on the offensive.
With Adam on higher ground, at first it was a little intimidating because he's over top of you. It sort of seems like he's dominant, like he has a higher reach and more power swinging down. You got me in the face. Does that count?
I was aiming for your chest. Sorry about that.
But the longer I played with him, I found that seeming disadvantage was actually an opportunity.
Oh, you got me in the foot. I don't know how to counter that.
Namely, that if I cleared his blade with a powerful sideways swipe and then swung in towards his ankles, which are now exposed.
I see your strategy.
You can't win. I've got the lower ground. They call me ankle biter. And that worked almost every time I was able to get the timing right. Oh, I hit myself in the groin.
Oh, no. Sorry.
I'm gonna need a minute. I think I did it with the butt of my lightsaber.
Let's take a minute for Mr. Heineman to walk it off.
I know you guys are loving this. Isn't this great TV?
You know, when I was a teenager practicing juggling, one of the juggling things was to take a pair of juggling pins and practice this spinning technique, which actually used to be an Olympic event. And I was about 16 when I was getting really good at it, and I tried to move. And smacked myself right in the trunk with a juggling pin. I was all alone in the house. I spent like half an hour on the bathroom floor just weeping. You want a drink? You want a scotch, a bourbon?
No, I'm good to go.
Okay. I really thought that being above Jamie would just give me this towering plank, and I was just gonna win every one. But he has access to my ankles, which he used incredibly effectively.
Once I get close, my legs are just done for.
From my perspective, I don't think I can call the high ground an ultimate advantage at this point.
Yep, despite finishing with a scoreboard advantage, Adam feels the numbers don't tell the whole story.
There's two things wrong with the data we've thus far gathered. One is we're looking for a definitive advantage, not a soft advantage. Two, and most importantly, we're not sword fighters. We don't know the first thing about fighting with swords like this. We need the assistance and perhaps even some training from an expert. Yeah, that's what we need, an expert.
And while the guys wait on a Jedi delivery, it's back to the workshop, where the Heineman has dumped his foam failure.
And they're going off to the side.
To test the myth that the Star Wars laser blaster dodge is feasible physics or a filmic fiction, Jamie has to match the movie's velocity with more accurate aerodynamic ammo.
Straight ping pong ball, not very accurate. It's going about 60 miles an hour, which isn't good. But we have ping pong balls made out of foam, and when I put a skewer on them, 150 miles an hour and dead straight.
That's cool.
One. Bullseye.
After converting his arrow-inspired prototype into a more polished version
Let's see what that does.
and adjusting the air pressure powering the gun,
Okay, 80 PSI in 3, 2, 1.
Jamie nails the blaster benchmark he's after.
We've done a number of runs now, and we're getting very consistent speeds of 130 miles an hour out of our gun. So we're right where we need to be.
Yep, but without a comparison to, say, a bow and arrow, it's difficult to gauge what 130 miles per hour really means.
I thought a visual chart showing the relative speeds of things might be helpful at this moment. For instance, here is a piece of tape representing the speed of the arrow, and it's a little bit shorter than the piece of tape representing our blaster because it was slower. This is the relative speed of a bullet compared to the blaster, many times faster. But we call it, all the time we call it a laser blaster. Laser is light, so how does the speed of light compare to all of this? Well, it's a lot faster. Significantly. The line goes out the door, it goes for a while. It's just a little faster than our blaster bolts.
But before the guys hit the location for the Dodge denouement,
Are you sure about this?
Adam's gonna shoot first
Okay, Adam, go for it.
to find out how much a failed test is going to hurt.
3, 2, 1. How was that?
Well, I tell you what, you definitely want to be wearing a cup.
So it's a good ouch?
It's an incentive not to want to get hit.
Perfect. Welcome to the MythBusters version of the Star Wars universe. We're investigating the myth that the good guys always seem to be able to just dive out of the way of the blasters used throughout the Star Wars universe. Now we have built ourselves our own little version of a rebel ship with a 40-foot hallway. We're gonna set up our blaster at the other end that shoots air bullets at the correct speed, and Jamie and I are each gonna take turns standing here and attempting to get out of the way of those blaster bolts.
With their rebel ship ship-shape,
All right.
first up, they're making sure they stay on target.
We're gonna shoot him first to make sure that the darts are hitting the right spot. You know, we're asking our target stormtrooper to do precisely what stormtroopers do in all the movies, which is get shot.
3, 2, 1. Okay, firing now. Well, that's weird. 2, 1. Oops, that one went off to the side.
Yeah?
1.
Off to both sides, high and low. The gun is firing at the correct speed.
Pressure, check the pressure.
Yep,
Pressure's good?
yep. Firing. Now that's just crazy.
But at some point in the mass production of the ammunition, they've become unpredictable.
They're kind of like this.
The arrow-like fletching has somehow lost the aerodynamic qualities of Jamie's handmade prototypes.
That means I'm headed back to the shop to come up with something else.
Back at base, Jamie decides to start over. And this time, he's borrowing a design element from Bullet Ballistics.
3, 2, 1. I think that's gonna work. And it's diabolically simple. A couple of ice cream spoons that are put in the crisscross that I've cut into the balls. And because I've scissored them, this is gonna be like rifling. It's gonna spin it and hopefully make it more true.
And with that, Jamie whips up a bucket load before heading back aboard, where Adam gets an eye-watering demo.
3, 2, 1.
Ow! We are back in business. These darts are working beautifully. The only concern I have is that they keep hitting our stormtrooper where it counts. You first.
Okay.
Here's how this test is going to work. Jamie is going to be standing over there. I'm going to be standing over here, and I'm going to be shooting Jamie. Oh, there's more. Right, there is more. I'm going to be shooting these darts at him, and he's going to try and get out of the way.
This is it. The Heineman steps up to the plate to put his body in the firing line for science.
All right, Mr. Heineman, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm not going to count it down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so at some point in the next 10 seconds, we're going to fire.
As far as reaction time goes, we know that a sprinter on the blocks, ready to do a race, can react within 160 milliseconds of the starting pistol firing. Jamie's got 220 to get out of the way of this bullet. Personally, I don't think he's going to be able to do it.
A hit. A palpable hit. Jamie barely moved, but it's the best of 3, and maybe now he's got his eye in.
Mr. Heineman, you feeling fast?
I'm set. Got me.
Got you.
As far as I can tell, I'm just starting to move about the time I get hit. And that means that the flight time of the projectile and my reaction time are pretty close to the same.
All right. At some point in the next... right in the center of your solar plexus there.
Yeah.
That's a 3-peat. Moving at the average speed from all 6 movies, the blaster seems unavoidable. Jamie's unable to react and take evasive action in time,
All right, sir.
which means it's Adam's turn.
Right in the shoulder. Whew. Ah! The adrenaline dump is intense.
And once he gets an identical and conclusive result,
That was no contest. 3 for 3.
this myth is on the ropes.
Well, there's just no getting out of the way of those things. But I'm thinking there might be a wrinkle we want to add to this that makes it more realistic.
But before they test a more realistic quick draw, our junior Jedi will test the martial myth of a higher ground advantage by learning from a lightsaber master.
So training is what we are going to get today. And not just general sword fighting training. Oh, no. Lightsaber training. See, the stunt coordinator for the Star Wars films, Nick Gillard, has invented a true martial form for dueling with lightsabers. And what we've got here is one of his proteges, Colby Boothman, a world-class level fencer, an expert in Jedi sword style.
I can come at you a million different ways.
He's going to show us some of the ropes of dueling with lightsabers.
Colby begins at the beginning. He covers the basics of balance and stance,
So that's like a very strong kendo pose.
handling, and footwork.
There you go.
If Adam and Jamie are to genuinely test the combat advantage of higher ground,
Hold on, let me analyze that.
they need to know a lot more about how to handle their weapons.
Just like that.
That's close.
Yeah, it's very, very personal. The original trilogies were at a more traditional distance. In the prequels, Nick had brought everything in very tight. And that's part of what makes the fights so interesting in the prequels, is because they're very intense. At the same time, they're so close that you can see the reactions from the actors. And that's why they trained so long for the prequels. Hayden and Ewan trained every single day for about 8 weeks.
Oh, that feels very Jedi. It feels like a very Jedi move. I recognize that move. That's cool.
In episode 3, the fight is originally about 15 minutes long.
Crazy.
That fight, they had to open up 3 studios. It's the length of 3 football fields just in one fight.
Wow.
Well, we haven't been training very long, but what is already crystal clear is that up till now, Jamie and I have basically been like a couple of gorillas with baseball bats, just kind of wailing away at each other.
I don't know if I make the hooting sounds. Is that very Jedi?
Hopefully, by the time we're done with this,
Oh, I almost got him in the head.
You did get me in that.
our sword fighting will do a little more justice to the beauty of the lightsaber as an actual weapon.
In a testament to the teacher's ability rather than the students, several hours later, our journeyman Jedi begin to make real progress.
This is very cool getting the lightsaber 101 from Colby, and we're learning that it is sort of like a dance. Hey!
There we go.
But if there's a word that typifies dancing, it's cooperation.
Oops, sorry.
And in fact, a sword fight is sort of the opposite of that.
You're looking for the opening, you're trying to close down those openings.
So we're just starting to learn how to win the battle against the other. It's a lot to learn in a very short period of time.
With the basics down, it's time to translate those techniques to an uneven playing field.
There we go.
A lot of times, it's not so much putting as much power as you can, it's trying to hit the openings that you see.
Where, after an hour of intense one-on-one sparring, from both vantage points, our fledgling fencers are exhausted.
Hold on a second. Oh, that's a shing.
But prepared for the ultimate fiery finale on the soon-to-be volcanic planet of Mustafar.
Now, the scene we're going to be creating here is the hellish interior of a volcano with molten magma, smoke, and fire. This may look like a giant tie-dyed t-shirt, but actually this is our volcanic sky. That's looking pretty good.
Yep, to match conditions of the iconic silver screen scene, the team is going to recreate not just the topography, but the volcanic atmosphere.
Nice. This thing is our lava flow. It's made out of clear plastic so that we can get lights underneath it to make it glow like lava does. One edge is higher than the other, so when we pour the lava in, it'll flow this way. And our lava itself is going to be guar gum. It's a powder like this stuff. And when you add it to water along with a little food colorant, voila, you've got this goopy lava stuff. It's perfect.
With the suitably dramatic backdrop ready to rock, Jamie gets to work accurately faking the footing.
And there we go, one instant volcanic rock slope. This ramp is what we're going to be fighting on. I actually took footage of the movie and the fight scene, and I held a protractor on the screen and measured it. That's what this angle right here is. And we've also put an uneven black terrain, which pretty faithfully replicates that scene.
And while the finishing touches are applied to their fake inferno, there's an unresolved reaction time test to tackle.
Thus far, Jamie and I have been completely unsuccessful in dodging the bullets from our blaster. Ah! 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 And we've constructed, I think, a pretty nice experiment. We've removed a lot of variables.
I'm not going to count it down, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking we might have removed one too many. What? I know science is all about removing variables to look at the essence of a thing, but what we've got here is almost like a sniper arrangement. Oh, but at 40 feet, I can see the stormtrooper holding the blaster. I can see him see me, and he goes, "Blaster!" That action of the lifting of the gun, that might make all the difference.
So to replicate that scenario, these stands are holding this weapon in a standard carry position, so that when I identify a potential target, all I have to do is raise the gun and fire.
Let's do it. All right, Heineman, I'm feeling good about this one. Hold on just a sec. There we go, properly covered. All right, sir, I'm ready when you are.
Okay.
Oh, ow! Right in the knee. Oh!
The gun raise takes an additional 400 milliseconds. Despite that, Adam's first attempt would have left him limping.
There was no getting out of the way of that one.
Set?
Yep.
That was a good one.
Unlike the first series of tests, Adam is able to move before the bolt reaches him, but he still can't avoid the hit.
All right, sir, I'm ready when you are.
Ah!
Uh-oh.
I just had to curse because that hurt really, really badly. I'm done testing. I failed 3 times. That really hurt. I'm gonna walk it off. Well, never let it be said that Jamie and I don't put our bodies on the line to test the stuff that we're doing. I started out this story thinking that the blaster bolts look darned slow, almost comically slow. But turns out, even when I can see our trooper lifting his rifle into position, it's fast enough to get me every single time. There is no dodging these blaster bolts.
Or is there?
Now, as it happens, in a prior episode, we clocked our reaction times, and mine was somewhat faster than Adam's. So before we call this one, I'm gonna have a go and see whether we get any different results.
You ready, Heineman?
I'm ready.
Can the Hoosier do what no normal human can?
1 for 1.
Jamie's fast, but there's simply not enough time to sight the incoming projectile, react,
That's 2 for 2.
and then move all of your body parts out of the way.
I felt it on my
Well, I think that's pretty definitive. You just can't dodge out of the way of these blaster bolts, and that's why in any gunfight, I recommend you shoot first. So, what have we learned today about humans' ability to dodge blaster bolts?
Not gonna happen.
I was totally surprised by that. Let's get out of here.
Dude, it's a set.
Oh, right.
Before we come out swinging, let's talk about this higher ground thing, because from a military point of view, it's supposed to be really important.
Well, it does provide several distinct advantages. It is easier to defend, and being on higher ground affords you a wider field of vision than your opponent. As long as 2,500 years ago, Chinese General Sun Tzu advised that if your enemy was on higher ground, do not ascend to attack him.
Yeah, but while higher ground may be really important if you're talking armies having to charge up or down a hill, We're just talking about two guys that are only a few feet away from each other, and that may be an entirely different thing.
Right, well, and then there's the moralistic argument. See, when Obi-Wan says to Anakin, it's over, I have the higher ground, he might be talking from a moral perspective as a Jedi who has rejected the dark side and he's on the right side morally.
Yeah, but we've got no way of testing that one.
No, we don't. Wait, what are we doing back here on the Rebel base? I thought we had put this myth to bed. Ah!
Uh-oh.
And we had, except, well, we realized that we'd left one thing hanging. And that is, when we looked at all the ways the good guys get out of the way of the blaster bolts from the stormtroopers, they don't just dive out of the way. No. In fact, Jedi have their own technique. They pull out their lightsaber. I would have one, but I'm Han Solo and he doesn't carry one. And they actually deflect the blaster bolts coming towards them with the lightsaber. Is that possible? That's what we want to test. All we need is a Jedi.
Well, as luck would have it. Are you ready, Colby?
Let's do it.
As we know, Colby Boothman, Master Swordsman, is about as qualified as anybody to attempt to fend off blaster bolts with a sword.
Colby, are you ready?
Ready?
The rules of this game are pretty straightforward.
Colby, here we go.
Without warning, I'm going to fire a shot. Colby's going to make his best effort to knock it out of the air.
Whoa!
Holy crap, he actually blocked it.
Yep, our earthbound Jedi made contact. But with the next three sailing past his defenses, maybe it was a one-off lucky hit.
Nah, it hit me.
Did he get that one?
Yeah.
Nice!
Well, it doesn't get any neater than that. Our Jedi was actually able to deflect some of our laser blasts. Now, I know we're talking about a fictional character in a fictional universe with fictional physics. I recognize all of that, but after the difficulty Jamie and I had dodging those things, I think Colby demonstrated some pretty amazing skills being able to actually stop them with his lightsaber, i.e. bamboo thing. Welcome to the planet Mustafar. Jamie and I wanted to know if higher ground is in fact a crushing advantage when it comes to battling with lightsabers. So we brought in one of the actual fight coordinators from the Star Wars films to give us a little lightsaber 101, and now we've replicated the exact pitch of terrain that Obi-Wan and Anakin have their final battle on. Also, for your viewing pleasure, we've replicated some of the aesthetics of the planet itself. We couldn't resist. Am I allowed to make my own sound effects?
Okay, go ahead and turn the power on.
So how's this gonna work? Well, we're gonna do 25 rounds with Adam on the high ground and then 25 rounds with me on the high ground.
There you go, sir.
To protect the lower person's head, we're using this kendo helmet, and it's wired along with the rest of the suit, so we'll be able to see if we actually get a score on that.
I'm gonna do a systems check on your helmet.
Yeah.
Hey, reset.
The rules are simple.
Yep.
When you get hit by a sword stroke and your lights light up, that's a point for your opponent.
Totally feels more realistic with this terrain, doesn't it?
Yeah, it came out quite nice. At the end, we'll
All right.
tally up the score and see what we got.
You ready, Heidemann?
You betcha.
Are you a Sith or a Jedi?
I would be a Sith.
That's what I would have said, but I didn't want to insult you. All right, let's go, Sith. Gotcha.
Our recently graduated Jedi once again do battle for science.
Nice. Gotcha. This is intense. Reset.
It's pretty clear that just one day of training won't make us sword experts, but it gave us some insight into ways to move the lightsaber. And it also does what all training does. It slows the process down a little bit.
Reset.
I feel like it's much less of a free-for-all in this test than it was when we started.
Oh, gotcha.
They are certainly more skilled,
Reset.
more clinical in their execution,
Oh, dead. Reset.
but as the contest continues, it's clear Jamie, supposedly at a deadly disadvantage,
Dead.
is holding his own.
You and I are quite evenly matched, sir.
At this point, I feel like I'm making quite a number of scores. And to me, that says that this is not a definitive thing, that higher ground always wins.
Yep, and with Jamie exacting the revenge of the Sith,
You didn't quite nail me in the ghoulies, but that was a good shot. Careful with that, will ya?
Part 1 of the competition reaches its exhausting conclusion.
So, that's it for the 25 rounds of Jamie from the lower ground position. Now it's my turn. We're not gonna look at the score just yet, because it's not about which one of us does better. It's about whether higher ground does significantly better than lower ground.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Heineman, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. But my intuition right now says higher ground is not a crushing advantage.
However, when Jamie takes the high ground, he immediately racks up several quick-fire wins. And Adam's obviously off balance.
Reset. Oh! Okay.
But as Adam adjusts
Oh, I got your foot there.
and finds his footing,
You got me.
it once again appears to be a relatively even contest. Despite the uneven playing field, each position seemingly offers as many scoring possibilities, equal pros and cons. And with all 50 fights done and dusted, the conclusion is clear.
Yeah, they both have their different sort of approaches. In the higher ground, you feel a slight bit of superiority because you're high up, but that's quickly dispelled by dying repeatedly.
So what do the numbers say?
Well, the numbers tell an interesting story, though it's not the story that the movie tells. Out of 50 trials, low ground won 26 times and high ground won 24 times.
Well, that's about as close to dead even as you can get without being dead even.
Indeed, and that tells me that this myth is dead busted.
Let's go back to our home planet.
Okay. Where's Jamie's home planet?